Jaya Vaishnava Thakur Srila Prabhupada. Vaishnava Thakur Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Vaishnava Thakur Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
So we read a short excerpt from Prabhupada Nectar by His Holiness Satsvarup Das Goswami Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada tells a story. When Srila Prabhupada's edition of Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela Volume 1 was first published, devotees were surprised and pleased to read about the humorous joking between Lord Nityananda and Advaita Acharya during the taking of prasadam at Advaita Acharya's house. One morning, during a car ride with Srila Prabhupada, one of the devotees expressed his appreciation for the new volume. There is such nice humor in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada. Yes, Srila Prabhupada said, spiritual life is humor also. Then he began to tell a story. Krishna said to one old lady, "You are so ugly, you should marry a monkey." "No," said the old lady, "I have given up all material desires. I will marry you, Krishna." "Yes, yes, yes." All the gopis and boys clapped and laughed. While Srila Prabhupada said this, his eyes lit up and he became animated, laughing at the humorous pastimes of Krishna. So, said Srila Prabhupada, Krishna was defeated by that laughing of the gopis. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
So you can see in Krishna consciousness, there is always the possibility of transcendental humor. It is not that Krishna consciousness is dry. It is not that Krishna consciousness is all work and no play. In fact, when we take up Krishna consciousness, we find it becomes very pleasing, very pleasing. And this story that Prabhupada says is significant because in today's verse today we will actually be looking at the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis. And the fact that the gopis were such exalted devotees, but they also had nice, wonderful pastimes with Krishna on the platform of humor is also very significant. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
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 Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Girivaradhari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Girivaradhari.
Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajanaranjana. Jaya Brajajanaranjana.
Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajanaranjana. Jaya Brajanaranjana.
Jaya Yamunatiravanachari. Jaya Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Yamunatiravanachari. Jaya Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Yamunatiravanachari. Jaya Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Yamunatiravanachari. तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी
जय यमुना 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 तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे
जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी
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 जय श्री श्री राधा माधव की जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा मई की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय श्रील गुरुदेव की अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ओम नमो
Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed in loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Jai Vitraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. So we welcome all devotees to this morning's program from Srimad Bhagavatam. Today's verse we read is from 3rd canto, 2nd chapter, and the verse should be verse 14. Yasyanuraga plutaha sarasa Leela Valoka Pratilabdamanaha Vrajastriyodri Biranu Pravitta Diyo Vatastu Kila Kritya Sheshaha Yasyanuraga Plutaha Sarasa Leela Valoka Pratilabdamanaha Vrajastriyodri Biranu Pravitta Diyo Vatastu Kila Kritya Sheshaha Yasyanuraga Plutaha Sarasa Leela Valoka Pratilabdamanaha Vrajastriyodri Biranu Pravitta Diyo Vatastu Kila Kritya Sheshaha Prabhuji's.
Yasyanuraga Plutaha Sarasa Leela Valoka Pratilabdamana Vrajastriyodri Biranu Pravitta Diyo Vatastu Kila Kritya Sheshaha
Yasyanuraga Plutaha Sarasa Leela Valoka Pratilabdhamana
Vrajastriyodri Biranu Pravitta
Diyo Vatastu Kila Kritya Sheshaha
Diyo Vatastu Kila Kritya Sheshaha.
Mataji's.
Yasyanuraga Plutaha Sarasa
Yasyanuraga Plutaha Sarasa
Leela Valoka Pratilabdhamanaha
Leela Valoka Pratilabdhamanaha
Vrajastriyodri Biranu Pravatta
Vrajastriyodri Biranu Pravitta
Diyo Vatastu Kila Kritya Sheshaha
Diyo Vatastu Kila Kritya Sheshaha.
Yasyanuraga
लीलावलोका प्रतिलब्धमानः व्रजस्त्रियो दृग्भिरनुप्रवृत्ता धियो वदस्तु किल कृत्यशेषः
Yasya, whose, Anuraga, attachment, Pluta, enhanced by, Hasa, laughter, Rasa, humors, Leela, pastimes, Avaloka, glancing, Pratilabdha, obtained thereof, Manaha, anguished, Vrajastriyaha, damsels of Vraja, Drikbihi, with the eyes, Anupravritta, following, Dhiyaha, by intelligence, Avatastuhu, said silently, Kila, indeed, Kritya Sheshaha, without finishing household duties. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Please repeat the translation. The damsels of Vraja, after pastimes of laughter, humor, and exchanges of glances, were anguished when Krishna left them. They used to follow him with their eyes, and thus they sat down with stunned intelligence and could not finish their household duties. Please hear the purport. In his boyhood at Vrindavan, Lord Krishna was notorious as a teasing friend in transcendental love to all the girls his age. His love for them was so intense that there is no comparison to that ecstasy. And the damsels of Vraja were so much attached to him that their affection excelled that of the great demigods like Brahma and Shiva. Lord Krishna finally admitted his defeat before the transcendental affection of the gopis and declared that he was unable to repay them for their unalloyed affection. Although the gopis were seemingly anguished by the Lord's teasing behavior, when Krishna would leave them, they could not tolerate the separation and used to follow him with their eyes and minds. They were so stunned by the situation that they could not finish their household duties. No one could excel them, no one could excel him, even in the dealing of love exchanged between boys and girls. It is said in the revealed scriptures that Lord Krishna personally never goes beyond the boundary of Vrindavana. He remains there eternally because of the transcendental love of the inhabitants. Thus, even though he is not visible at present, he is not away from Vrindavan for a moment. Such a beautiful purport. This verse, these verses, when we chant them, if we really put our heart and we chant, you find that the verses themselves, without even understanding their meaning, they become so relishable. Why? Because Krishna is known as the wanderer. In Sanskrit, Krishna is known in the verses in the 5th canto. It is stated by the residents of Jambudvip that Krishna is the wanderer in between the verses. He's actually in the verses. That's why every single shloka in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita is non-different from Krishna. So when we chant these verses and we chant them with devotion, we chant them with sincerity, you will find that even without understanding the full import of the verses, still by chanting them lovingly, so much potency can be gained. So actually we are indebted to Srila Prabhupada for giving us Bhagavatam, for giving us all these shlokas. Because in our lifetime, with our kind of life, we would never be able to touch these verses. And even if we did, we would do them with speculation. But because Prabhupada has given them according to Parampara, so even when we chant these verses, as long as we are trying to chant with devotion, Krishna always helps us. That is why these processes of Bhagavatam and the study of our scriptures should never be done mechanically. They should never be done because they are rituals. Every time we do them, even if we have little time in between, we should do them with our heart. Once we do them with our heart, then we find that devotional service becomes awakened. Actually, in this way, despite all the difficulties of the material world, Krishna actually gives us time He gives us opportunities to become devoted. So that's why these Bhagavatam readings become essential for us. So whatever happens, Prabhu's Matajis, we should not leave the shelter of Prabhupada, and please don't leave the shelter of studying his books. We should become very, very particular to put aside time for Prabhupada. In this verse you find that the remembrance of Lord Krishna is continuing. And here you find that the emphasis is on remembering Krishna in his pastimes with the damsels of Vraja. They are known as the gopis. In fact, all Shastras agree that of all the great devotees of the Lord, the gopis occupy an exalted position. They are considered to be foremost in their devotional service. Prabhupada says in the purport that their love for Krishna excelled even the great personalities like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. This is the greatness of the gopis. And the reason for it is very simple. It is found in 126 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yathor bhakti radoksaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Suprasidati means to become satisfied. Yayatma refers to Atma. So the point that we must understand is we can only become satisfied in life if we render devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the first starting point of our devotional service. All dissatisfaction will go when we make devotional service the main occupation of our life. Everything else should revolve around the devotional service. If devotional service becomes a component of our life, then it will not give us satisfaction. But the difference between the gopis and many other devotees is that their devotional service was ahaituki apratihata, meaning it was unmotivated and therefore it was uninterrupted. If we want to perform devotional service continuously for the pleasure of Krishna, as the gopis did, we have to understand why they could do that. Because Krishna's will always overrides our will. That's why he is known as the supreme will. If Krishna wants only, we can perform any action in this world. Every action, even that of an atheist, has to ultimately get the sanction of the Lord, even if it is through the stringent laws of material nature. But for the devotee, Krishna becomes completely under the greatness of the devotee when the devotee performs devotional service without motivation. This is very important. Without motivation doesn't mean we are not motivated to perform devotional service. We are highly motivated to perform devotional service, but the motive for it is not for our own selfish reasons. Meaning to say, we don't do devotional service to get something material from Krishna. We don't do it because Krishna, I'm doing it, but actually I don't love you so much, but I heard, from everyone that if I do this for you, then I will get all these things. That is not relationship, Prabhupada says. So that's why it's very important that the gopis were the masters of uninterrupted service because they were completely unmotivated. You all know that famous story in Dwarka. One day Krishna wanted to show the Dwarka residents the greatness of the gopis. Because the Dwarka residents were very accustomed to having Krishna all the time. So all the time they begin to think that we are so fortunate and we are the highest inhabitants of the entire spiritual world because Krishna is with us. Krishna stayed in Dwarka how many years? Yeah, he crossed 100 years, He spent a lot of time in Dwarka. In fact, he spent very little time in Vrindavan, according to Leelas. Here, of course, Prabhupada ends by saying he never left Vrindavan. But factually, when you look at the pastimes in terms of timing, from our material point of view, Krishna was spending a lot of time in Dwarka. He was at least 100 years old in Dwarka. So the residents thought Krishna was very much attached to them. Then one day what happened was, Krishna had a headache. Or at least he pretended to have a headache. So when Krishna lay down and had a headache, all the residents of Vrindavan, the residents of Dwarka, they came. The queens of Dwarka, they came. All the courtiers and servants of the Lord, they came. And they asked, my Lord, how to get rid of this headache? So Krishna said, I can only get rid of this headache, not with any cure of the medicine type. No, that cannot happen. But the headache goes if I get the dust of the lotus feet of my devotees. So then what happened was Narada Muni, who was in Dwarka, he moved around the whole Dwarka. And he looked around and asked all the devotees in Dwarka, Krishna is having headache. So in order for us to serve the Lord, can I have dust from your lotus feet? But every devotee hesitated. Because while they love Krishna very much, They also pointed out, Narada, that if I take the dust from lotus feet, the dust of my feet for Krishna, and Krishna puts it on his head, then I will go to hell. Because he's Krishna. And how can I do this to him? So Narada Muni did not only move in Dwarka, he moved all around the world. He went to see the Devatas, he went to see all the great personalities, and all of them refused to. Then finally he came back to Krishna, and Krishna smiled and told him, you go back to the inhabitants of Vrindavan, and there you go and see my dear friends, the gopis, and you tell them that I'm having headache, and you see what they do. So Narada went back to Vrindavan, and there he met the gopis. When the gopis saw him, they were very anxious, and they asked him for news of Krishna in Dwarka. After becoming satisfied with the great pastimes of Krishna in Dwarka, the gopis asked him, why have you come? Is there anything we can do for Krishna? The gopis lamented to Narada Muni. Why? Because they said, we had so many years of the transcendental humors of laughter. We had so much of wonderful time with Krishna. But then suddenly, he left us. And even though he promised that he will come back, every day goes by where we are waiting for him to come back. But the day has not come. But how is Krishna? And he said that, I'm sorry to inform you that Krishna is in critical condition. So what is happening to him? He's having a very bad headache. And the only cure is to get the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees. So gopis, I have come here to ask you for the dust. The gopis looked at each other and said, quickly, quickly, take the dust and give it to Krishna. And without wasting time, they collected dust from their feet. They stepped on every other part of Vrindavan they could and got some more dust. They collected bags of dust. And Narada was very surprised. Narada asked them, how is it that you're giving me bags of dust of your feet? Aren't you afraid that all this dust is going to definitely send you to hell? And the gopis said, we welcome hell as long as Krishna becomes better. What is hell? The gopis said, hell is only a state which we are living now. Why? Because we are separated from Krishna. So if anything we can do in separation that will help, or it will put the Lord at ease, then you please take it. The gopis didn't mind if they went to hell. This is the greatness of the gopis. So this is unmotivated devotional service. And that is why they are the masters. If you read the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, very important chapter for us, and you read the 9th verse, purport, Prabhupada puts this point of the gopis in nice context. Prabhupada says, Bhakti Yoga is the purification of the senses. Please understand this point. The whole point of Bhakti Yoga is to purify our senses. Why? Because Prabhupada says, at the present moment, this material existence, the senses are always impure. That is why we are struggling. When our senses are pure, they are connected to Krishna, you find that our mind is very peaceful. When our senses are agitated, that means they are not connected to Krishna. That means, Bhagavad Gita says, they are not pure. Then they become engaged in sense gratification. Remember yesterday's Puranjana? Puranjana became so disturbed, he couldn't leave the city because all his life he was just enjoying his senses. He never turned his senses to Krishna, and therefore the higher enjoyment eluded him, and only lower enjoyment, which is temporary, he was having. So Prabhupada says in the purport that by the practice of Bhakti Yoga, one can actually purify the senses. There is no need to do artificial work to get the senses purified. And in that purified state, this is important, the senses come in contact with the Supreme Lord. In the purified state of Bhakti Yoga, our senses become directly contacted to Krishna. See this point? It's very important. That is why Brahma Sparshanam is there when we do deity worship. That's why Brahma Sparshanam, the touch of Krishna, is there when we hear Bhagavatam. At this moment, all our senses are towards hearing and seeing Krishna. So everything about us is engaged that way. Even though we may be tired because yesterday we finished work late, or Sunday morning, it's always very tiring because 6 days we are working. Still, somehow or another, the senses are peaceful. Why? Because they are directly in contact with the Supreme Lord. So never underestimate the power of serving your senses for Krishna. The gopis immediately used their senses. They used the dust that touched their feet, and their feet is a sense of touch. They took it and they gave it to Narada, and it was directly contacted to Krishna. And when Krishna heard this and Narada came back with the dust, Krishna smiled and told Narada. And he told that the residents of Dwarka, now do you know why the inhabitants of Vrindavan, especially the gopis, why they are considered to be my most exalted devotees? Because they will not hesitate to go to hell. All of you, you don't want to go to hell. Therefore, the motivation is not me. The motivation is how to avoid hell. That is not devotional service. Devotional service means at all costs, we must serve Krishna. Whether our body breaks down while serving Krishna, whether we are very tired while serving Krishna, whether people get tired of us because we are serving Krishna, it doesn't matter. We serve Krishna. Prabhupada writes, further in the purport. He says that someone may be engaged in material existence in the service of some master, but that person doesn't lovingly serve the master. Isn't it true? You find very often when we have to serve our employers, when we have to serve somebody, we don't lovingly do it. We do it because either we are paid or we have to do it. And Prabhupada says the master also feels the same way. It is not that he says, I lovingly give you money. No employer lovingly gives the employee money. He's always cursing, why I have to give this fellow this money. And when he can reduce your money, when he can cut corners somewhere, he will always do it. Always do it. So it doesn't matter. So actually Prabhupada is saying, the master is also not in love with the servant, and the servant is also not in love. He pays for the service, he takes the service. So there is no question of love. But Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying that in spiritual life, we must become elevated to the pure stage of doing something for Krishna without expecting something. This is very important. Sometimes we say to each other that this is a very high state. But Prabhupada said in Lilamrita that until you aim for something high, you will not even go beyond what you are now. If you tell your children that you must aim for distinction, maybe they get merit. But if you tell them to aim for pass, they will fail. So Prabhupada said, if you want to aim for something, at least aim for rhinoceros, he said. Then maybe you'll shoot an ant. But at least you'll shoot an ant. If you aim for ant, Prabhupada said, you shoot only the air. There's nothing left then. So that is why, from the day we start devotional service, we should aspire for this wonderful mood of the gopis. That they did something without expecting something in return. So that is why you find here, in purport, Prabhupada says that Krishna's love for the gopis, because of this mood of theirs, his love for them was very intense. Very intense. And Prabhupada says that the pastime with the gopis was always humorous. Krishna was always smiling most with the gopis. Of course, he smiled when he killed demons also, But that was killing, But with the gopis, it was always transcendental humor. And the gopis also remember that whenever Krishna was there, they used to laugh and laugh. See that episode of Prabhupada Nectar? Actually, when we turn to that page, it was not selected page. It was selected by Krishna. It was just, one page to read. But immediately that story is actually on how the gopis were laughing at Krishna because he told the old lady, he benedicted her that you should get married to a monkey face. And the lady said, no, my desire is to get married to you, Krishna. And the gopis laughed because Krishna was getting married to someone very old. So in that way, Krishna and the gopis, their love for each other was very intense. Why? Because even though Krishna is the master of the 6 opulences, you all know, if you read the first canto, 3rd chapter, I think 36th verse, in the purport, Prabhupada says very nicely, the real difference between Krishna and all the living entities is only one thing. Krishna is always free of material afflictions. So those who become connected to Krishna, they also become free of material afflictions. It's like these lights, If these lights are not connected to Singapore Power, even you have the most beautiful light in the world, Prabhupada says the light has no value. Because you can't turn it on. What's the point? Looks very nice, but of no use. In the same way, we may look very nice externally as devotees, but if we are not connected to Krishna, then what happens is, no matter how wonderful externally our devotional service looks, internally, we don't have any light in our lives. There is no light. We are very dark. That's why sometimes we become depressed in devotional service. Sometimes we become disturbed because our motives are not correct yet. Our motives are not pure. We are still fault finding. Krishna never found fault with gopis. Gopis never found fault in Krishna. Every time gopis thought, whatever Krishna wants, we give. Because they were very simply in love with Krishna. Simply, not complicatedly in love with Krishna. In material world, all love is complicated, isn't it? Because it is exchange. I took this from you. After a while, I'm expecting this, you're not giving. And then we become very confused because it becomes a barter trading. And if that is not there, we become dissatisfied. But Krishna never counted gopis, this many times I've helped you. Gopis never counted Krishna, this many times we have done this for you. Never thought that way. Otherwise, the gopis would have weighed all the dust, If we were the gopis, we would have weighed the dust and said, now you ask Krishna based on all the dust we are giving, how much punya we will get. Or how much we should be getting. But gopis never asked for anything. They said, you take everything, now we don't want anything. And because they never want anything, Krishna gave everything to them. You see? Ananyasrinte antumam ye janaha paripasate tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yogakshema vahamyaham. To those who are exclusively devoted to me, Krishna says, I will give them what they lack, but whatever they have, I will also preserve. So gopis never lacked anything, Prabhus and Matajis. They looked unqualified, but they were supremely qualified. They had all the knowledge of the world. Why? Because 1.3.36 of Bhagavatam tells us that Krishna is the master of the 6 opulences, isn't it? Krishna has all the wealth in the world. Krishna has all the power in the world. Krishna has all the fame in the world. Krishna has all the beauty of the world. Krishna has all the knowledge of the world, and Krishna is the only one who is fully renounced in the world. So all these 6 opulences only Krishna possesses. But Krishna says in 9.4.64 of Srimad Bhagavatam, and this is very important, Krishna tells Durvasa Muni how dear my pure devotees are. And in those verses he says, Naham Atmanam Ashase Mad Bhaktais Sadhu Bir Vina. Vina means no. He says, even though I have all the 6 opulences with me, he says Shriyam, the great opulences of Shriyam, they are all together known as Shriyam, very prosperous one who has these opulences. Chadyantikam Brahman. And he says, Yesham Gatir Aham Param. I do not want to enjoy these opulences without my pure devotees. In other words, Krishna, even though he has these 6 opulences, he finds no taste in them until he enjoys it with his pure devotees. And Krishna enjoyed these 6 opulences in full capacity with the gopis. That is why the gopis had full knowledge of Krishna consciousness. That's why the gopis were the most beautiful of Krishna's devotees. That's why the gopis, even though they were considered simple maidens with no money in the bank, they were the richest personalities because they had devotional service. That's why they were so powerful that no one could touch the gopis. No one could harm the gopis. They were fully under the protection of Krishna. And that's why they had all power. They had all wealth. And that's why the gopis today are the most famous of devotees of Krishna. Even those people who do not want to accept Krishna, because they are lusty, they remember the gopis, Prabhupada says. Gopis are more famous actually than all the other devotees. And last but not least, it is with the gopis that Krishna gave this nice opulence of pastime of renunciation, which is referred to in the purport also. Because only with the gopis could Krishna actually feel this heightened sense of being with them and being separated from them. And being separated from them, they increase their devotion for Krishna, and Krishna increased his remembrance of them. So this chapter is not only about remembrance of Lord Krishna, it's also about Krishna's remembrance of his pure devotees. Because whenever Krishna remembers you, then only you can remember Krishna. This is the point. Very nice, We can only remember Krishna if Krishna remembers us. So if we want to remember Krishna, then we must behave like these great devotees. No motivation in the heart except to please Krishna. And then Krishna himself will remember us. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj told his disciples, we should work in such a way. Work in such a way, not that we want to see Krishna, but we should work in such a way that Krishna becomes eager to see us. This is the mood of a devotee. And that is why this verse 9.4.64 is so nice. Now, after this point of reciprocation between Lord and the devotees, Prabhupada actually alludes to the pastime of the devotees with Krishna. And here we find that in Krishna book, there are at least 2 or 3 chapters where Krishna's specific pastimes with the devotees are there. especially the gopis. But one pastime that's really nice is when one evening Krishna decided to play his transcendental flute. And in the evening, the gopis always had to go back to their houses because they were all married and they had their husbands. But the moment they heard Krishna's flute being played in the evening, this is his evening pastime, standing in the groves of Vrindavan, the gopis left all their engagements and they went to heed the call of the Lord. And this is so significant that when we take up Krishna consciousness, whenever we have the time for Krishna, we should act in such a way and manage our life in such a way that all engagements must start and end by remembering Krishna. This is the way that the gopis have taught us. So the gopis left everything, and when they came, they sat down with Krishna. They all stood around Krishna. There's a beautiful picture. It's an ISKCON painting. Krishna standing in the grove and the gopis are standing around him. Some of them are placing their elbows on the branches of the trees and they're just watching Krishna playing his flute. So Krishna played his flute very nicely. And this is the point also stated by Krishna in the 9th canto, 4th chapter. He tells Durvasa Muni, Ye Daragara Putrapta. That was 9.4.64. The verse after that, 9.4.65, tells us this point. Ye Daragara Putrapta Pranan Vittam Imam Param. So Krishna is actually so what is the word? Krishna is so mesmerized and so taken in by his devotees. Why? Because Bhagavatam tells us, these pure devotees, they give up their homes, they give up their wives, they give up their children, they give up their relatives, they give up their riches, they even give up their lives, simply to serve me, but without any desire for material improvement in this life or the next. Very nice point. No desire for material improvement. They are willing to put everything in context of Krishna. That's why Prabhupada says, a great devotee doesn't drop his wife and children and become irresponsible, but he places them in the proper context of his life. This is very important. For us, we know that the success of family life and Krishna consciousness is when Krishna comes first. The moment the wife and the children and everything else comes first and Krishna becomes second, then the reciprocation is that if you put Krishna as second, how can Krishna put you as first? Ye yata mam prapadyante tamstataiva bhajami aham. So according to your reciprocation, to that point, Krishna also reciprocates. So the gopis always put everything else on the side and they put Krishna in the center. The elder gopis, the wives of the Brahmanas, you remember? They left the Brahmanas who were very busy doing all the fire sacrifice and who refused to give all the offerings to Krishna and Balaram when they were asked. Then Krishna and Balaram told the boys, the Gopas, you please go to these wives of the Brahmanas. The wives of the Brahmanas were gopis. They were in Vrindavan, but they were elder gopis. And they were always meditating and doing devotional service. Their husbands were very strict in understanding and expert on rituals. But they forgot that the whole point of all the rituals was to remember and surrender to Krishna. It's RS. If you remember Krishna, then you surrender to Krishna. If you cannot remember to Krishna, then where is the question of surrender to Krishna? So because they were always remembering Krishna, Krishna knew their hearts. And then he told the boys, forget the husbands. You go to their wives. The wives are the ones who prepared all this food stuff. Not even the husbands, they don't even cook. So you go to them from the back door and you tell them that Krishna and Balaram are very hungry and we are also hungry and we want the food that you want to offer. And they went immediately to see the wives and they said, Krishna and Balaram, they have asked us to come and they are very hungry and they are in the groves of the Vrindavan forest. Immediately the wives of the Brahmanas did not even hesitate. Why? They did not consider that, oh, will I be in trouble with the husband? Will I be in trouble? Will there be some material improvement to my status? Nothing like that. They thought, these foolish husbands of ours, they were supposed to make these offerings as offerings for Krishna. Now Krishna is standing before you and you don't want to give it to him. It's crazy. It's like you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The meaning of chanting is that, Krishna, please give me some service so that we are always attached to you. Then the moment you finish chanting, one Prabhu comes, Prabhu, can you help me to clean the fan in Gauranga Center? You say, no, Prabhuji. give me some other service. Now you just chanted, Krishna just reciprocated, but you are thinking, what is the greatness of cleaning fans in Gauranga Center, Maybe I should give class, then everyone will see me. So like that we think, we pick, we choose. No, this one I don't want, that one I want. The gopis never picked and choose. They just took whatever that was possible. So that is why they are peaceful and we are struggling. This is the reason. So that's why when we come to Krishna consciousness, we should be very clear like the wives of the Brahmanas. They did not care for the material society. They did not care for what they would get from this. Immediately they told the boys, we are coming, we are coming. They took all the beautiful, all the array of prasad and they brought it. It was bhoga actually, it was not offered yet. And they brought it all to Krishna in the groves of Vrindavan. And when they came before Krishna, in the same way, now in this pastime, when the gopis came before Krishna, Krishna did the same thing. Krishna said, my dear elderly gopis, you're all married to these brahmanas. They have denied us the food, and you have brought us the food. You're very kind, but now you should not stay here. Go home now. Don't hang around now. You'll be in trouble with your husbands. And then the gopis, the elderly gopis said, Krishna, now we have given up everything. Now when we go back, our husbands will reject us because they have actually lost all the bhoga for the fire sacrifice. And we are standing before you because of your beauty, because of your greatness, because of our devotion. We have given up everything. Now you're telling us go back home. How can you do this to us? In the same way, in Bhagavatam, Krishna also turned to the gopis when they came. They came and he played the flute and he requested them all through the flute to come to him. They gave up. They sacrificed, they detached, and they renounced. These are three very important words in devotion service. Sacrifice, detachment, and renunciation. These three come automatically on the platform of devotion service. We can know if we are advancing in devotion service, if we are prepared to sacrifice our time for Krishna. We can know that we are gaining some happiness in devotion service if we become detached from this material world. The moment we become detached from this material life, the moment we are detached from material improvement, the moment we are detached from what can I gain from this, then we are really sacrificing. So, to understand detachment, we have to sacrifice. They are not the same. But those who sacrifice and become detached, then ultimately they know how to renounce. Because renunciation is not false renunciation. Renunciation means engagement in Krishna consciousness. Not I surrender, I won't do anything. Provu, I'll come to center, I'm highly surrendered, don't give me any service. Because when I take service, I cannot be detached. So I'm completely detached. Then we should tell you, then don't take prasadam also, Provu. Isn't it? You should sacrifice taking prasadam. You should become renounced from prasadam. Just live on love and fresh air. That's very good. But that part we cannot renounce. That part we can't detach. That part we can't sacrifice. So the gopis had these three. They could sacrifice because they were detached, and on that platform they became renounced. The wives of the Brahmanas had the same beauty. Sacrifice, detachment, and renunciation. But in both cases, the Lord tested them. The Lord surprisingly told them, go home now. Go back to your engagements. Don't waste time here. And both times, the elder gopis and the younger gopis, he told them, it is getting late now, It is really late. Because Krishna started blowing the flute in the evening. He could have blown in the morning, but he never did that. Why? Because if he blew in the morning, there is no sacrifice. The gopis are all around. But he blows in the evening. Now the gopis have to decide what to do. Should I go home or should I be with Krishna? For them, there was no question about it. So sometimes Krishna tests us that way in devotional service. He puts us in a situation where, why is Krishna asking me to sacrifice at this point of my life? Why? Why is it that when programs are going very nicely, suddenly something is happening and, oh, it seems like we are being tested. That is Krishna playing his flute in the evening. That is Krishna playing his flute in the evening. So now he's asking three things from us. Sacrifice, detachment, and renunciation. So he told them, go back, it's very late. The gopis became very sad. The wives of the Brahmanas also became very sad. The wives of Brahmanas said, don't reject us now. We have given up everything. And they embraced Krishna in their hearts. Because for them, he was like a child, All their life, they waited for this one day when all the bhoga can be offered to him. And Krishna knew their heart and fulfilled his desire. And in that way, he told the wives of the Brahmanas, now you go back home. And don't worry about your husbands. Why? Because yoga kshemam vahamyaham. True enough, when they went back, their husbands were repenting. They were thinking, very sorry, very sorry. This is nonsense of us. The bhoga was for Krishna. Krishna was standing in front of us and we denied him. What were we doing? And the wives were alright. Nobody was denied. Nobody was in difficulty. This is the greatness of Krishna. So when we think that, oh, when I take up devotional service, I'll be in difficulty, then we don't sacrifice, we don't detach, we don't renounce. But every time Krishna wants us to take that extra step. That's why in devotional service you have to push yourself. A little push is required. How long we're going to stay at one round, one chanting of one round of mala? How long? How long we're going to say minimum 16 rounds? Let's keep it at minimum. How long we're going to say that I will read Bhagavatam when I'm going to die? The point is we don't know when we are going to die. Therefore, when are we going to read Bhagavatam? When is it going to come that we will say, I will wake up for Mangala Aarti daily? When? This is the question we have to ask ourselves. How long? So then when the gopis heard this, now we are talking about the pastime of the